I'm Just Kumar.
And you're watching Top of the Morning. And today our guest is Kenneth Harry. He's an artist from New Jersey, and he's actually a personal friend of mine.
This is going to be an interesting show. So he's an artist. What kind of art does he do?
He does portraits, portraits and fine art.
I'm definitely interested in learning all about this.
Yeah, and he's a character, so you'll love him.
All right, so don't touch that dial.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, and as we promised, our guest today is Kenneth Harry. Kenneth Harry is an artist and a sculptor in New Jersey. So Kenneth, tell us a little bit about your work.
What would you like to talk about?
Anything. You can start
How
with
long
the
have you been an artist? I mean, when did you start doing
When I was
portraits
10 years old.
When you were 10
But I have
years
to
old?
state that I'm not in New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay.
Basically, based out of Beijing, China.
Beijing, China?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Wow, that's...
Well, it started when I was 10 years old.
Uh-huh.
That's when I started painting professionally.
Mhm.
And then commissions were coming in when I was 12.
You started painting professionally when you were 10 years old?
Yes.
Started making money when you were 12?
Yeah, yes. 10, actually 10 years old is when I started making money.
Wow. That is
$50.
wild. $50.
Yes.
That's pretty wild. So tell me about your first artwork.
My first commission was of Chris Scott. Chris Scott was my neighbor, and Chris Scott was living in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and he was 14 years old, and he was destined to go to Broadway, and he wanted a painting of himself done. And he was 14, and I was 10 at the time, and he gave me the commission for $50, and I painted him.
Wow.
So then years had gone by, and he went into the Army and went to Vietnam, was killed in Vietnam. And then the painting drifted with his family until finally his parents passed away, and then his relatives gave me the painting back, which is in my collection.
Wow.
So that was a painting when I was 10 years old.
That's pretty neat. To have the first painting that you did.
The first painting that I did, that was a commission.
That was commissioned. I mean,
Right.
but I mean that's something else.
Right.
That's something else.
Yeah.
So you've never done anything else. I mean,
No.
you've always been a painter.
Yes. Painting, sculpting, drawing, yes. That's all I've done.
So
Man.
you actually have a painting in the Vatican
Yes.
called The Prophet.
The Prophets in the Vatican, 1974, there were several artists. I think there are 15 artists that went into the Vatican at the new American wing in the Vatican, and that was 1974 that the Prophet went into the Vatican, yeah. And I was the baby of the group, and most of the artists that were in the Vatican were artists that were established. They were very well-established American artists, so I was a baby in the group.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
So how old were you then, if you were the baby?
In 1974,
Wow.
I was younger.
Younger with more hair, right?
Yeah, no, it was bald.
So you paint celebrities, is that right?
No, I don't paint just celebrities. I paint people, I paint everything, everyone. I paint a lot of mythological subjects. The celebrity, where that comes in, and it's not, I don't go after people because they're celebrities. That started with W.H. Auden. And W.H. Auden, the English poet, was my adopted father. And what had happened is he got me going on painting portraits, and it just kept growing and growing. Or I did his portrait, and many portraits. Then Marion Moore, George Balanchine, and then ballet dancers, and it went on and on and on. The first actual commission was Willie Moscone, the pool player, when I was 12 years old. That was a commission. But I didn't really think about just doing celebrities. I don't have this thing to do, oh, I'm going to do celebrities, because I do, as you know, I do, everything.
Right.
It just things to do, like I'll be painting Dr. Noam Chomsky, his portrait up at MIT.
Wow.
And that's how it, he writes me and then I paint him.
You're basically self-taught. I mean, if you started painting when you're 10, I don't think you went to some college.
No, I went to university. I went to good schools. I
Okay.
did. But basically, my self-training is good. I mean, I had good training. I had good parents, and I had really good tutors in art. So
Okay.
I was apprentice. And I've had teachers that I grew up with Salvador Dali I met him when I was 10 years old, and we stayed friends until he passed away.
What's he like?
He was basically a good guy, a very
Eccentric?
normal, good human being. Yeah, behind the scenes, everything was for show. But behind, if you lift the veil of the Dali, whatever, mystique and the capes and the canes, and get down to work with him, he was really a very kind, generous person. And he always remembered basically the times when people supported him and when he needed support. So a very, very good man, I thought. A lot of fun. We rode in Rolls Royces a lot with him.
Wow.
Yeah, anytime they sent for a roll. So my friend and I, Marty, were close to him, and we worked on some of his paintings, scrubbing the paintings down.
Now, is he your role model, or who was your
No,
role
I don't
model?
have really a role model. That's my mom and dad, probably, my mother and father probably are the best role model that I can have. I don't have a role model. I get inspired by certain artists, Caravaggio or whatever, Da Vinci, whatever at the time. But I don't have really a role model. I get inspired by so many different. In fact, I thought about that the other day, and I don't really know what one thing, that would spark me off.
So when it comes to art, right, the first thing that you started doing was portraits.
No, the
Okay.
first thing I did was figures. I did
Figures?
figures, yeah. I
Okay,
grew up
so-
part of my life in Hollywood.
Figures and
Yeah,
because you were
yes.
mentioning in the beginning, you said you do sculptures as well. You
Yes.
do portraits and
Well,
sculptures.
sculpture basically, because sculpture is connected to paintings, and you would do a sculpture of a head, and you would do a sculpture. When I was 8 years old, I was doing optical crystal, experimenting with lucite from DuPont. So actually, I was actually doing cockpits for airplanes and
Wow.
designing different cockpits for airplanes. So I had things tooled and dyed up because of my family and engineers in my family and engineers with DuPont. So I was able to build a cockpit, and it was the first optical crystal that I worked on. I think it was 1955.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty wild stuff.
And it all narrowed down from model airplane building too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a
that's it.
fascination with aviation? It sounds
Always,
like?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I'm
He's
a
a
pilot.
pilot,
I'm a
yeah.
pilot as well.
Yeah, my cousin's a general in the service. So
Okay.
I would have gone that, engineering
Uh-huh.
and then go into flight, but I didn't.
All right.
So I stayed into the painting.
So
Because
tell
one day you'd have to retire, and that always
Right.
bothers me.
That's right.
They say you can't fly anymore.
So tell us about the crystal sculpture that's on your website, Beatrice.
Optical crystal, how it's done, how it's
Yeah,
made, it's
yeah.
with difficulty.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. There's a lot of mold making. First, you get the model. The model poses. After the model poses, then you have to make molds. You have to make clay, just like the same procedure as you would proceed with doing bronze. So you make the clay, then you make molds, then you clean up the molds, then you make more molds. And then with optical crystal, there's autoclaves and a lot of technical
What's
air.
autoclave?
Autoclave is, when you get your teeth done and they put the instruments in a little autoclave that cleans it, and there's pressure, and it takes all the germs away.
Yeah.
Only this is a big autoclave that you put the material in order to, let's say, bake it, in order to get it hard. And you pray that there's no air bubbles or any dirt into this.
Yeah.
So is it just regular acrylic, plastic?
No,
Okay.
it's a material that was developed by Otto Rome of Roma Haas in Philadelphia, and he was a chemist, whatever. He was a very educated man in this material, and the material's made from coal, same as diamonds. You just don't have
Wow.
that pressure that you can
Okay.
build a diamond with, which you can today. You can build diamonds, lab diamonds.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
They're better than the diamonds that we mine.
Uh-huh.
So do you do shows? Where do you show your artwork?
All
Like
over. I don't know where the pieces
galleries
go.
or-
Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
goes all over. I don't know where they show. I have no track of it anymore. At
Yeah.
one time I did. I mean, when I was a kid, I was in the Baltimore Museum. I had a piece.
Really?
Yeah, Baltimore Museum. I
Wow.
was 16 years old, and it was called The Future Generation.
Mhm.
And it was a drawing that went into the museum. It was one of my first pieces to go into a museum. And that was a long time ago.
You actually went to school here, didn't you?
I did. I went to Merrill Institute, which is a good school. It's up in
Right.
Mount Royal, I think. Yeah,
And you were studying art at the time.
I was studying art at the time.
But at
yes.
that time, you probably could have taught the class.
Well, you know, there was a lot of petty
you already were
jealousy that went on
accomplished.
at the time too. Yeah, because there was a lot, but there were a lot of good professors too.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good professors, and our classes we produced a lot of very successful artists, people that do make a good living, that have become very wealthy. And my class has done very well.
So, and you haven't been back to Baltimore since then,
No.
is that right?
And I haven't been
Wow.
back since. No.
So who are some of the people that you painted? I mean, people that we recognize,
Like
and most
famous
people would
people.
would recognize.
Yeah.
Gene Kelly,
Gene Kelly.
Ravi Shankar.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I need the list in front of me because I forgot.
Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin
Dustin
Hoffman, Otto Preminger, Alfred Hitchcock. There's so many. I just don't.
Wow.
Yehuda Menuhin, Yasha Heifetz,
No, who's that?
Valdemar Yasha Heifetz, the violinist.
Okay.
George Balanchine.
George Balanchine. A lot of dancers. A lot of people.
Now, how do you get to paint these guys?
I don't know. I still don't know.
Where do they go?
No,
Do they
Norm
call you
Chum-
up, or do you call them?
I
where is
used to
that?
call them up. If I admired somebody, I would
Uh-huh.
get a hold of them and show them my work.
Yeah.
Or I would be introduced, and then people write me. And that's how it happens. They write, and
Wow, I can see by this list that there's a ton of famous people on here. I mean,
Hundreds.
Aaron Copland?
Aaron Copland, wonderful man to work with from Brooklyn. I painted Aaron Copland at his house. I had 6 sittings with him in Mount Kisco, is where he lived.
Uh-huh.
Aaron Copland is a great composer. Great, easy to work with, a lot of fun. But he knew people that we both knew. He knew that W.H. Auden was my adopted dad, and he knew my patron. One of my patrons, Lincoln Kirshton, and Lincoln Kirshton was the founder of the New York City Ballet, and also the heir to the Filene fortune. So he built a lot. Gave George Balanchine his first job.
Wow. Now, who is your favorite person to paint?
The one I'm going to do tomorrow. That would be it.
Good answer.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have a favorite. Because I think that I don't know why I started this. I really don't. I have no idea. I just look at the list and go, how did I get to all these
Yeah.
people? I travel different places, go down dirt roads in France, and I would go anywhere to if Albert Schweitzer was around. And I found out there was a photographer by the name of Karsh that was running around the world. He lived in Ottawa, and he would travel. And I always wanted to meet up with him and perhaps paint a portrait of Joseph Karsh, but I never did. And he died in Boston at age 90 or 91. And he did that, taking a big camera around, not drawing people, but photographing them. And that was an unusual life. That was sort of an inspiration, that he was able to get to the jungle and, take pictures of Albert Schweitzer and go to the Pope, and I just do great things.
Because all you do is portraits live with somebody there.
Yes.
You don't take a picture and say
No.
You won't
What-
do that.
What it is basically any pictures or anything that's done. I've actually had pictures taken and then forget it. The portrait's done already.
Okay.
With Lord Hailsham in London.
Uh-huh.
There was reference photos. I didn't even look at them. I had the painting finished.
Yeah.
And there are posthumous portraits. Those are very difficult to do.
What kind of portrait?
Posthumous. Posthumous is when someone passes away.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
really don't like doing them. An example, this is a good story because Stan Getz is a great player, tenor, sax, and one of the greatest, Charlie Parker and Stan Getz. And Stan Getz calls me up from California, and he was actually artist in residence at Stanford University. So he would like to have a portrait done. I said, whoa, this is great, Mr. Getz. I'll be out there. Give me time. Well, time went by, 9 months went by, and I'm sitting having dinner with my friends, and on the radio was a news release was that Stan Getz died of cancer in Los Angeles. So I just get, I felt, whoa, and it felt bad. So I had no really closure of it. So what had happened over the years, through various means, I meet up with Bev Getz, Stan's daughter, who looks like him. So I tell her this story. We talk about this. She said, I remember Dad, when he wanted to have a portrait done, he never had a real portrait painted. And he always wanted to have a portrait done. Everything was commercial for album covers, and it was a commercial artist. But he never really sat for a portrait. And so I said, well, what about creating a posthumous portrait? It's difficult to do. But she looks like him. And so I was with my agent, Lauren Perucci. We were out to dinner with Bev, and we looked at her and studied her, and she looks like a young Stan Getz. I put the sax in her mouth, and I have Getz that way. That type of thing is difficult to do, but you're getting the feeling of the person.
Now, how do you capture their personality in a portrait?
Draw it, paint it. You don't know if you get it. I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know how. I can't. It's like explaining. I mean, someone from Gilliard said, everyone has talent. Well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I never heard of that one. But she teaches ear, and we were at a party, and she said that everybody has talent. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but you know, I think there's different degrees of talent. I mean,
Right.
some people can sing great opera, some people can't. It's talent. What are you going to do? You could try all you want. You just can't sing as well as someone else. And it's not competition. It's just the way it is. So I don't know how that's done. I really don't. I don't have a formula, and I can't teach it.
Wow, so you're painting all these different people. I mean, I'm looking at this list, and I keep on saying, wow, I mean, George Burns, Dolly Parton, I mean, the list just goes on.
Yeah, tell us about George Burns.
George Burns was wonderful to work with. When I worked with George, we were working at, I think the Pierre Hotel, and we worked together, and we went to the show. He did Carnegie Hall. He always wanted to play Carnegie Hall. So I was backstage with him, watching him perform, and how he controlled the audience was wonderful. He was just, and funny. I mean, I can't do his jokes, but everything he says is funny. He's just a great guy to work with, and very intelligent too, and very dedicated to his wife. His wife passed away. Gracie was dead at the time. But what energy for a man like Burns had. And he had these Le Corbusier glasses, the architectural
Right.
glasses
Yeah.
on, and just veiling. Sarah Vaughan sings in front of it, but that's how that painting was done. Rather than having a man that's dying, you can do it that way. I mean, there are photographers that do that type of thing, and there are painters that do that type of thing. But that's something that I didn't want to project as for Paul Robeson for future generations. So this is how we worked it. And then I got to get my ego going. I had Antonio Salemi do a bust of me. So I have my bust, and I have Paul Robeson's bust. So I own the bust of Paul Robeson and myself. And Tony died at 102. So, but
Wow.
wonderful stories about Paul Robeson. And yeah, it's a painting hangs at Rutgers University at the Paul Robeson Center.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty big painting.
Now, is that the largest painting you've done? I mean, that's,
No, I've done larger paintings than that.
Wow.
I've done murals, and yeah, I've done big pieces that I've forgotten about, that need to be photographed, because I don't have records of them.
Wow, Kenneth, we've talked a lot about your paintings. I'd like to know a little bit more about your sculptures. Do you have models posed for you?
Yes. I do have models posing for the sculptures. It depends on the sculptures that are done. The bronzes are the optical crystal. Optical crystal, I have models when I did Beatrice. When I did the Prophet, I had a model, and I had a model when I did Moses. And when I do the sculpture, I do it just the way I would do optical crystal. I would do it the way I would do bronze. It would be the same way. Or if I was to do a porcelain, it's the same thing. It's the same technique in the beginning, but you're using a different material. The optical crystal is very tricky and it's very expensive to create because it's the clearest substance known to man, and each piece has no dust in it. It's pure, clear. There's no bubbles. When you get bubbles, you have to destroy it, start all over again.
Wow.
And it's
Now-
quite a job.
Now, where can people find you? Do you have a studio?
They can find me, they can go to www.hari.com. They can go there, or they can put my name into the internet, and they can find me there. And Lauren Perucci, they can put Lauren Perucci, they can find me through Mr. Lauren Perucci. He has a website that's coming up.
He's your agent?
He's my agent, yes.
Got
I
it.
understand you have an optical crystal called the Prophet.
Yes.
Is that right? And a painting
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, the painting that I did is in the Vatican.
Okay.
The optical crystal of the prophets, I don't know where it goes. It goes to many collections.
Okay, wow.
So I don't know where it is. You know, I can't say because it's an edition that I put out. We try to keep edition high, but generally it's not going to make it probably because there's so much that has to be done each one. I try to keep it, well, it would be a high edition, but not for the planet Earth today.
What's
with
a
the
high
population.
edition?
High edition would be 300 or 200, 360 or 200. Very low quantity, yeah, but the lower edition would be 50 pieces. But the problem with that is that your prices would have to even go up 4 times higher than the pieces that you do with a higher edition. The higher edition brings the price down.
Mhm.
Yet the prices are still going up on the pieces.
Wow.
Because I have people that help me to polish. They sit there and they polish my piece all day long,
Wow.
which is a lot of work.
Mhm.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's just like a bronze foundry. If I do sculpture, and I do it in clay, and then it's done in wax, the molds, the wax process. Lost wax method is when you do your bronze, and your bronze is, it's expensive when you do a short edition. You're gonna do one or two, and it's very costly to do that, because casting price in the United States are very high. Around the world, too. It's not less expensive in China.
So is everything done here or in China?
No, all my optical crystals done here. All my bronze now, I'm going to be doing a lot of work in China. I did my bronze here, in the States, and in Italy. But there's a bronze, since bronze is, the Chinese actually discovered how to do bronze. It seems that they lost it during the Mao period, but now they've regained so much. There's some very good bronze foundries to work with. Not because of the cost, but the quality is good. And I want quality versus the cost of it. I prefer to have good pieces of work done. And a lot of foundries go out of business. And in New York, they're very, very expensive. Quality is good, though, but it's just overpriced, and you really can't make a living at it sometimes. You just say, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I have to charge so much for a piece.
So what else do you do in terms of media? I understand you have a radio show? Is that-
No. I don't have a radio show. I'm sort of an artistic advisor to the radio show. That's all. What I do is what I do with this radio show is that the people that I paint, the person that hosted the show sort of got me involved with the people I paint with. And then what they'll do, which is really unique, is they'll talk about posing for me. And they'll talk about their own careers. So the beginning of their show, when they're being interviewed, we'll talk about how it was to pose for Kenneth Harry. So that's kind of unique. So, and I have people that would, do this. So there's 7 that are lined up for a radio show. That's the only reason. It's not really, I don't know where I get that title, producer. It needs to be changed. Almost artistic advisor. Yeah, and it's just for, basically it's not a paying job at all.
So Kenneth, this has been wonderful. Are there
It's been a great show.
any last thoughts you want to leave with our viewers?
I think the only thoughts is that people should really enjoy art, collect art, have fun with it, and really get to know, their culture in our country, in the United States.
Great.
And that's my thoughts for the people.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Thank you.
This has been our guest, Kenneth Harry. I'm Lil Reed,
I'm Just Kumar.
and this is another show of Top of the Morning. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.